of Italy being a country that has a boot facing the southwest, the District 2 seat is sort of like a boot facing the northeast. It's a heavily commercial district. It has 3 times more jobs per acre in this district than on the city average. It has 4 times the commercial real estate square footage than the city average. It has 3 times the number of businesses per acre than the city average. It has 4 times the value of new construction per acre than the city average. And its property tax base is twice what the city average is. So even though we don't often hear about District 2, it's a heavily commercialized district. It includes some major facilities in the city. It starts running, if you want to take the top of the boot, it starts at Love Field in that area and swings over into the Stemmons corridor area east of Stemmons and moves down and has Parkland Hospital and has several hotels along the Stemmons corridor, swinging into Oak Lawn a little bit further down, and then takes a little sliver of the western part of downtown and then swings south of downtown to take in City Hall, the convention center, the high-speed rail station will be located in this district, takes in Farmers Market, and then it swings out to the east along I-30 and moves up Gaston Road up to around White Rock Lake. So it sort of circles around downtown. And as I said, it's sort of a district we don't hear much talked about, but it's a heavily commercial district and it's an economic engine for the city of Dallas. So with that, let's get started on the questions. We'll get started on introductions first, and we're going to give each candidate a couple of minutes to give us a little background on themselves, maybe talk a little bit about why they're running and some of the key issues they see in the race. We'll do this alphabetically to start out. So Ms. Asadi, please start us off.
Thank you very much. And thank you guys for hosting this morning. My name is Raha Asadi. I'm running for City Council to represent District 2. I'm 29 years old. I'm a labor and employment attorney. And the reason I decided to run was because when I moved back into the district in 2017, I made multiple attempts to contact my council member, apply for boards and commissions, so on and so forth. And I never once got a response. And that really didn't sit well with me. And so I decided that I wanted to run myself. And the reason for that is because what we're seeing in Dallas is the more marginalized communities are just becoming more and more marginalized. My parents are immigrants from Iran. They moved to the United States during the Iranian Revolution. And so, I've seen and experienced firsthand, the American dream and building a life from the ground up. And I think that primarily, the minority communities, the Black and Hispanic neighborhoods are really kind of getting the short end of the stick more and more often. I tell people all the time, I believe that we're all born equal, but the resources and privileges and opportunities that we're given in life are not. So what I hope to do is to bring a renewed sense of service back to City Council.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to Ms. Saeed has joined us a little late, but we're going to have some time limits on the questions. And so there'll be occasional, and that means that their time is up, and close the remarks as quickly as possible. Okay, let's move on to Mr. Moreno, please.
Good morning. My name is Jesse Moreno. I'm running for Dallas City Council District 2. I am a third generation Dallasite. I'm a small business owner in the hospitality industry. I have multiple restaurants here in Dallas. I have over 20 years of experience, starting when I was on the Dallas Youth Commission at 15 years old, serving as chairman, making policy decisions at a very early age, then serving on the DISD Teen Board, and throughout then and now served on various organizations and boards and commissions such as the DISD Redistricting Committee, the Bond Oversight Committee, multiple City of Dallas bond committees, and most recently served on the Dallas Park Board with my colleague, Jeff Kittner, who's on the call this morning. And District 2 is doing phenomenal, as you all know. The economic growth, the economic engine that's happening here in District 2 is phenomenal. And yes, we need to do some work on our permitting side, but we're doing some great things. And I want to continue that progress that has happened in the district. I do have the support of outgoing Mayor Pro Tem Medrano, and very importantly, District 6 candidate, Councilmember Omar Narvaez, who these two districts on the Stemmons corridor overlap. And I believe it's very critical that we work together. And so I'm just looking forward to continuing to working with you guys. And thank you for the time.
Thank you. Ms. Saeed.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. My name is Sana, and I am a Dallas resident for 7 years. I was a former reporter in this market. I was with Fox 4 and CBS 11. I eventually left television and at some point made my way to the city of Dallas as a spokesperson. I oversaw the response to the Ebola crisis and also July 7th when 5 officers were killed. I eventually left the city a few months after TC got there and finished my doctorate in urban planning and public policy. I now work in commercial real estate, multifamily, overseeing community outreach for the firm. I also run a nonprofit called Kimia International. We do documentary films on human rights issues, and we, with the help of the United Way, last year launched a program called Fight Club, which is a 14-week program that combines boxing, yoga, and therapy for women who are survivors of trauma. And we work out of Tyler Station. I'm running because it's been a long time that we've had one family really overseeing this district. And I appreciate the Medrano family service, but I think it's time for change, some fresh perspective, and innovation in service. My top 3 priorities are addressing trauma-informed public safety model to address re-traumatization of our individuals in our community, and also secondary trauma with police and fire. Addressing homelessness, and also addressing our permitting process, which in some cases is taking over a year, which is unacceptable. And then, I have the support of the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas, the endorsement of the Dallas Police and Fire Associations, and the recommendation of the Dallas Morning News. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. The attendees or people watching this forum, we have provided the candidates the questions beforehand. Because we're business organizations, we're going to be more business focused in our forum than perhaps some of their other forums when they appear in neighborhoods. So we wanted to give them the questions beforehand so they could study up on the answers, if you will. So our first question is going to be relating to working with others. And we'll start that with Mr. Moreno, followed by Ms. Sayad and Ms. Asadi. This question, as I said, relates to working with others. Once elected, you will be one of 15 Dallas City Council members, and by necessity, being able to work collaboratively will be one of your most important assets that you must have. Can you provide 1 or 2 examples of where you work collaboratively with others to reach a common goal? And as I said, we'll begin with Mr. Moreno. You're on mute, Jesse.
Thank you. So my service on the Dallas Park Board gave me the opportunity to work with 14 other individuals to come up with compromise, come up with strategy and solutions to get to 8 votes to be able to do what's best for not only my district, but the entire city of Dallas. And so I have that training, that experience of working with 14 other individuals that are appointed by the city council and the mayor. And so that 8+ years of experience brings me the expertise needed to be able to collaborate and work with 14 other members, just the way it is on a governmental body board. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saeed.
Yeah, when it comes to collaboration on Dallas City Council, I think we've seen that does not always happen. So my experience is, when we took we had about $11 million sitting in the public education grant, the PEG account for the city of Dallas when I got there. And we took $2.5 million and allowed our public meetings to be broadcast online, create on-demand access. We installed cameras throughout City Hall. And that's just one example of something that we put on the agenda. And I had to go around to every single council member to tell them what we were going to do, ask them if we could have their support. And then in addition to that, managing different crises throughout the city, from floods to ice storms to Ebola, it was constantly working with council to get that done. And in addition to that, with my nonprofit, we launched Fight Club in the middle of a pandemic, and we worked on that program with my board, which includes counselors, which includes business executives, and we brought in different expertise and came together for 6 months to create a curriculum where we could address trauma in our community. So I have that experience to bring people to the table and collaborate and make solutions happen. But more importantly, even when I don't agree with somebody, I welcome them to the table so that we can work toward a solution together.
Thank you, Mrs. Sadi.
Yes. So as we've heard a little bit, while the city council members have been working on really hard issues, oftentimes we're seeing that they're not agreeing. They're not getting to 8 votes. And it's just become a little bit more politicized and polarized than I think we've seen in the past. And so we need collaboration there. My everyday job is, like I said, I'm an attorney. I work in litigation. My everyday job is working in the face of adverse interests, and despite that, being able to reach mutual resolutions, taking into consideration those adverse interests. And I work with attorneys across the country with, very adverse interests for their clients, for themselves, for their firms. And so being able to navigate that while, having a judge kind of, giving you, orders that you need to follow, it's a lot to balance. And, I feel like I've really mastered that. And aside from, my training and experience as an attorney, I am a part of the Dallas Association of Young Lawyers 2018 leadership class. And what it is a small group of people who are admitted to this program to take on big projects in the city. One of those projects was a partnership with a local nonprofit organization called Heart House, which is a after-school program for recently immigrated and refugee children, particularly coming from backgrounds of trauma and really difficult immigration situations and family situations. And so we held an event called Taste from the Heart. It was a food and culture festival to benefit them. And I chaired that event, worked with 40 other attorneys that I put into steering committees. So working with people is what I do every day.
Thank you very much. Let's turn our focus over to economic development and property taxes. I'm actually going to combine a couple of questions here, candidates. Dallas has one of the highest property tax rates in North Texas. I think it's second highest, and it's definitely among the highest among major cities in across Texas. But turning to economic development, growing the tax base is going to be an important part of Dallas if it's going to maintain its essential services. And what some specific measures do you support that would generate additional economic activity? This can be a question directed towards your district, District 2, or it can be a question directed also citywide. But so it's a double question in terms of property taxes are pretty high. We need to grow our way out of this. What are your plans for economic development in the city of Dallas? And we will start with Mr. Moreno on this question, followed by Ms. Said and then Ms. Asadi.
Sure. So District 2 is the epicenter of all the entertainment venues, such as Deep Ellum, parts of Knox Henderson, parts of Greenville, the rapidly growing Cedars development, the Victory Park, the Stemmons Corridor, the Medical District. So we have 2 big opportunities right now at the Medical District with the old Parkland, what ends up developing there, and then also down in the Cedars with the So Good project and the Park Place project. Those are going to be thriving districts. And as far as how we can enhance and how we can help is loosening up our MF2 zonings to allow for more density to happen and allowing those housing credits to come in for individuals who are working 2 or 3 jobs or who are a teacher and just can't afford the raising property taxes that we have out there today. There's things that we can do in historic neighborhoods where we have senior citizens who are on fixed incomes who have paid their house off for years and years, but now are facing an uphill battle with property taxes. So there's projects that we can put in place to help them maintain and stay in their homes. But in the way we keep the economy going is by making sure that the permitting process is moving at a rapid pace. We know that there's projects that are funded by banks, and we're not able to move dirt. And even though we're not moving dirt, we're having to pay interest on those notes for projects that are on standstill because of the City Hall permitting process. As a small business owner, I've been there. I've been waiting there. A permitting office says, hey, we're down at Jefferson. We're going to show up at your establishment between, 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. Noon rolls around, no one's showed up. Call them, they're out for 2 hours. And so we really have to get a hold on the permitting process. But District 2 is moving we're one of the strongest economic engines in the entire city of Dallas, and we just want to continue that.
Let's just leave it at that. We may get back to a question on permitting a little bit later. Ms. Saeed.
When it comes to property taxes and growing our tax base, I think it's important to note that our business community really helps contribute essential components to our city and to our tax base. I think we're going to talk a little bit later about what the city's budget is going to look like, but we've got big developments in Victory. We've got developments throughout the city. I think having clear lines of communication with council. I really want to talk about the permitting process, so I'm going to just simply say that I think where we are with the permitting process is absolutely unacceptable, period. When it takes over a year to get anything through the city, and people are losing documents that developers have sent in, for example, that's just not how you do business. So I think, when it comes to how we move forward from here, it really comes down to working with a sense of urgency, allowing opportunities for residents to weigh in as well, so that we're not seeing the conflict, excuse me, that we see when a zoning case is up to CPC or when council is considering a case. A lot of this really needs to be worked out ahead of time. But I think at the end of the day, the interest is there to continue developing, but we're not seeing the city right now working with a sense of urgency to meet the business community with where they want to be.
Okay. Mrs. Sadi.
So I've had the pleasure of talking to literally thousands of people in the district since January. And the overwhelming theme that I hear is that people are really, really struggling with property taxes. So many houses I've gone to that have for sale signs up, and I ask them about that, and they say this house has been handed down for generations in my family, so we don't have to, we're done paying mortgage, but it's the property taxes that is literally driving us out of this neighborhood and out of the city of Dallas altogether. So what do? There are entities and companies that are able to take a 1% increase, a 2% increase. The difference that makes to an entity that is much more well off than a lower to middle class working family, it's just a bigger hit. And we need to be hearing the voices of the people in the district who are clearly suffering in trying to get their property taxes paid. And so there's money that can be made elsewhere. Another example is that residents do not like when they hear that developers have an unencumbered tax abatement, and they can go on and build their properties, construct their properties without having to pay taxes. And so it starts making sense when you see this one house on a lot taking 3 years to be built, because they don't have any incentive to pick up the pace because they don't have to pay property taxes. So I think we need to look at the issue of not having to pay taxes as a developer because we're losing good money there. And then and another issue, and I know that we're going to talk about permitting separately, but another issue is just zoning. So many people in my neighborhood, Oaklawn, people in the Cedars, they want a little bit of separation between their homes and the entertainment districts. And make no mistake, these entertainment districts are vital to the economics of the district and the city. We need them, we want them, they bring value to our properties. That said, we need literally just proximity wise a little bit of separation so that people can not have to live with nuisances like loud people, cars, parking lots, and kind of have that separation between residential and commercial.
Okay, thank you. As you can see, candidates, I'm letting you sort of go and finish your thoughts. So even though we have a minute, feel free to complete your thoughts when you hear the bell. Let's talk about permitting. So all three of you have mentioned it as an issue. It is it's become a bigger issue over the last year. There's been an increasing number of complaints with regards to how difficult it is to permit in the city of Dallas. And I must tell you, candidates, that as long as I've done forums, and I've been doing these now for 12 to 14 years in terms of doing candidate forums, this has been an issue for that period of time. So the question that I have for you is, what are you going to do about it? So let's start with Ms. Said on that, and then follow with Ms. Asadi and Mr. Moreno.
Well, I'm sure everyone on this call has seen the D Magazine article where TC is explaining that at the beginning of COVID, there was a new platform that was enacted to process permitting. And there was a learning curve and some growing pains with that. And even though that's not the best answer, but that was the answer that he provided. 1 month is a learning curve. 2 months is a learning curve. 3 months is a learning curve. I'll even give you 6 months. But a year is not a learning curve. That is negligence. That is not acting with a sense of urgency. That is not being respectful to the people who are trying to file permits with our city. When you talk to MetroCare and City Square, who are two of the biggest providers of affordable housing in our city, they will tell you that affordable housing developers are so frustrated with the city of Dallas that they will literally go to every city around us but us to avoid dealing with our permitting process. How are we supposed to serve the needs of our community knowing that affordable housing is one of our biggest issues when it's taking over a year? And then in that process, they're not getting any communication as well. So what is the solution? I think we can definitely look at some innovative solutions to this. There is actually a tech solution to this that was proposed to the city that, to my understanding, the city even paid for, that reduces this timeline to 1 day. And the city never did anything with it. So I think this is one of the like I said, this is one of my top 3 issues that I'd like to address at the city. I'd like to see this permitting process come down to 30 days. And I think that's completely possible. So if we make this a priority for the city and make it clear that this is going to be one of the first things that the new council, that it comes into place, whoever from this forum is taking that seat. I think that for each of us, that's definitely a priority. But for the city council, that must be a priority to tell the city manager that this has got to change. It's unacceptable. I have developers who've told me that they've sent in plans, and a year later, when they haven't gotten their permit, they've been told that their plans were lost. I think it comes down to a sense of urgency.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Thank you.
response. Ms. Asadi.
Can you just bring the bell closer? Because I don't know that we're hearing it, at least.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's better. I was not hearing it before.
Okay, I'll do a better job.
I was talking to a developer last weekend, and he said, he lives in Dallas, but he was like, I'm not even trying in Dallas anymore. I'm going to Plano, Allen, Frisco, because it's just impossible in Dallas. And, we're talking about innovative solutions. We don't need an innovative solution. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let me tell you a little bit about how we get things done in the law. And I'm sure Jeff knows as well. We have guidelines and deadlines that are provided by the court, provided by the judge. If we continuously miss them, we're in contempt of court. We're oftentimes forced to pay sanctions. So why aren't we kind of taking that concept and applying it in the permitting process in the city? If it's taking more than 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, why aren't we putting some kind of sanction? If we're quote unquote hurting for money, or we're having to pull taxes out of working families more than they're able to provide, why not have another form of generation of revenue by sanctioning the complete lack of urgency? And I don't know that, I'm not involved in the permitting process, so I can't tell you the ins and outs of that. But I do know that when things are rushed, they fall through the cracks. When I'm forced to file something with not enough time to fully vet it and to have it be well-rounded, that will present as an issue later. So I don't know that 30 days or just a hard deadline like that is necessarily appropriate. I think it's more of a case-by-case basis, but ultimately I think we need to have these measures in place where there are these deadlines, and if those deadlines aren't met, we're going to be facing sanctions, and it will require them to be more productive.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno.
Thank you. So correct. The council members have to put that pressure on the city manager. That's his oversight, and if he's failing to do that, then the city manager needs to be held accountable. And then the customer service. City employees need to understand that they're not there doing anyone a favor. They're there providing a service to the citizens of Dallas and to the developers. And sometimes I really see that failing when I go into Jefferson myself to apply for a permit. It's almost an inconvenience. It's a, well, why do we have to do this type attitude? And we have to change that mentality and remind them that for every permit that comes through, our staffers, that's how they're getting paid, because people are pulling permits. And so, I've had discussions with many developers, have an endorsement from TREC, the Metro Tex Real Estate organization, because they know that together we're going to be able to come up with solutions. And talking to the experts in these industries are how we learn what's broken. When we're talking to Hardwood Development and their struggles through the permitting process, when we're talking with the De La Vega company, who is going to be putting in a 20-acre development at 75 and Haskell, these are the people we need to be having conversations with in order for us to better understand what's broken. That way we can go in with the mentality to fix the system.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a major issue, and appreciate you taking some time to explain what you might do about that. Let's move on to public safety. It's a major issue, not only in your races, but also across the city in terms of all the other races that are on the ballot. We have several related questions, and I'll give you a little extra time to walk yourselves through your public safety positions. But the question is this: the largest portion of the city budget is related to public safety. This past year, there was some controversy over the discussion at Dallas City Council to take away $7 million in projected overtime pay for the police and put that money for other uses. Some call this an attempt to defund the police. We have, as I said, 3 questions that are sort of related to each other. I'll let you walk yourselves through them. And as I said, because of the importance of this issue, we'll give you a little more time than the 1 minute. So our first question is this: do you view the proposal made last year during the budget hearings to take away police overtime as an attempt to defund the police? The second related question is, do you think we need more police officers on the streets? And if so, how many? And third, what other public safety measures do you advocate if elected to Dallas City Council? So our questions are: do you view the issue of taking away police overtime pay as defunding the police? Do we need more police officers on the street? And what are some of your other public safety measures that you're promoting as a candidate? So we'll start with, let's see, Ms. Asadi, go to Mr. Moreno, and finish with Ms. Syed.
So I want to first address the question about needing more police officers, because I fully believe that is putting the cart before the horse. Excuse me. I've had a very long conversation with the Black Police Association, whose endorsement I've received. I do not believe that police officers are fully that their skills are being maximized right now, and I'll explain that. First, I want to just acknowledge that police officers have one of the most hardest jobs in society. They're forced to wear 10 different hats at any given time, and then we're asking to take money away from supporting those police officers. I don't necessarily think that's the best answer, but I would like to add that it's not just about financial resources; it's about human resources. Again, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's look at, private entities. Let's say Amazon or Google, for example. And again, as a labor and employment attorney, this is what I do. Let's use Amazon as an example. They have a very specific and strict method of evaluating their employees' output and addressing their performance. We don't have systems like that in place in the police association. So we need to make sure that we're getting the maximum return on our investment in police officers and making sure they're at a maximum level of productivity before we can even consider hiring more police officers.
Okay. Who's up next? Mr. Moreno.
Thank you. So I think the first question was, did we feel the defunding of police was just that? No, I don't believe it was an act of defunding the police. The police actually ended up with a higher budget at the end of the day, with programs such as putting in lights and putting in signage like hide your keys, lock your belongings. Those are the types of things that have been working along the Stemmons corridor and the things that we need to continue working with. The KPMG study, there's so many different studies out there that tell us we need more police or less police. That we just don't know what the right number is. I want to have those conversations with the new police chief and give him the opportunity to let us know what his beliefs are. What I do believe is that our police officers need to be paid more, a lot more than what they're being paid today. Police officers go onto the job because they want to be police officers. However, right now we're having them be social workers, code compliance officers. That's why under my tenure on the Dallas Park Board, I implemented, with the help of my colleagues, the creation of the Dallas Park Ranger program to better assist our officers from having to go and respond to calls like someone drinking at a park or someone sleeping at a park. Hope to be working with my friend Constable Orozco, who has endorsed my campaign, and we have some initiatives that we're going to come up collaboratively. That way we're not pushing everything just on DPD, and also working with more EMP programs. My neighborhood is part of the Enhanced Neighborhood Patrol. I think there's a lot of opportunities for the philanthropy community to come in and help those communities that can't support or can't pay for those resources for an EMP program in their community. And some neighborhoods taking that opportunity as philanthropy and helping those communities that are just not able to do that financially.
Thank you. Ms. Saeed.
When it comes to public safety in our city, I think there's definitely a lot to take on there. The first question about defunding the police. I feel that the term defunding has become extremely politicized from both sides of the aisle. At the end of the day, I do think that that council made a decision that alienated the police, that took away $7 million in overtime, that didn't bring any healing in our community with the minority and the Black communities. And so I feel that it really just fell flat. And then especially knowing that they then turned around and did reallocate funds to different line items in the police department's budget, I really don't understand the purpose of that vote last year. I think at the end of the day, it only created more division within our community. So what I have put forth is a trauma-informed public safety model that the Dallas Morning News editorial board gave a nod to in their recommendation for me. And what it really is addressing is the re-traumatization in our community, particularly of youth, and also addressing secondary trauma for police and fire. Now, this is something that former Assistant Chief Hughes has told me that they're already starting to the momentum is there to try to address that. It has not been done yet. And when you talk to Chief Artis at Fire, he says the exact same thing. This is something that is a priority for them as well. So, I have the support of the Dallas Police and Fire Associations. They've given me their full support, and they have faith in me to not only create those bridges, but to help address some of their biggest issues. Now, when we talk about hiring police officers, the budget does call for the hiring of more police officers, and we simply cannot hire them. And that's for a number of reasons. Applications are not coming in, they're coming in low, but we are seeing the crime rate rise in all three categories in District 2, in aggravated assault, family violence, and non-family violence, in murder in this district. So I think that while we do need to discuss racial healing and that we need to create a space for that and train officers in identifying symptoms of trauma, I think that we also need to address secondary trauma, and we also need to make the police department whole with the funds that have already been allocated there. One more piece I'll add to that, and then I'll end my piece here, is that the police have been forced to police mental health and homelessness. And so the city has done itself a disservice. We dissolved our department that addressed public health years ago. The county has that complete purview. And I think there's value in bringing health back under the city's purview so that we can adequately address mental behavioral health, and that will help us address homelessness, which I know we'll discuss a little later. But I think that's also part of the problem is as a city, we're going to use the tools that we have, and our tools, our greatest assets that we have that, as you know, take up the biggest chunk of our budget are police and fire, and we have to rethink that immediately.
Well, since you brought up homelessness, let's move on to that question. Mr. Moreno, you go first, Mrs. Saeed, you be second, and Mrs. Sada, you be third. This homelessness has been, I think a couple of you mentioned it was a major issue for you, and I know it's a major issue at the city, at Dallas City Hall. To some, it appears the main strategy of the city seems to be relocating homeless encampments versus developing a comprehensive strategy to address the problem. So our question is this: how do you view the homelessness issue, and what would you propose be done to address the issue over the next 2 years? Ms. Moreno, we'll let you lead off.
Sure. So there's no question that District 2 is the epicenter of concentration for our people experiencing homelessness, especially in the Central Business District, but also along the Stemmons Corridor, along the interstates where TxDOT has jurisdiction. And so that's one thing that we have to be able to work with the state on how they allow us or don't allow us to go and clean up an encampment that's become a health hazard, not only to the individuals experiencing homelessness, but also to the property owners, to the residents that live nearby who are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in property taxes, and who come to expect for the city of Dallas to be responsible and to clean up the encampments when they become a danger. They are a county responsibility. However, we know that they're not holding up their end of the bargain. And so Dallas just has to step up. And I believe we're starting to do that with the creation of the Homeless Commission. We need to give them more authority other than just an advisory board say. And I believe they need to have the ability to make policy decision. They've crafted a lot of in-depth plans by working with the service providers, by working with the people experiencing homelessness, and with working with the adjacent property owners. And so it takes relationships, it takes knowing what the issue is, and we have to face the fact that there's so many different types of people who are experiencing homelessness. Some of those are, one paycheck away from becoming homeless. There's folks who are fleeing domestic violence. There's young adults who from the LGBTQ plus community who are being forced out by the parents. And that's why I've been working with Mayor Pro Tem Medrano to create housing for that segment of the population. Then there's also people who are either facing drug abuse or mental health issues. And so I'm really excited about the Right Care program that the city has in place. Right now, I think we need to create it a little bit better. Right now, we're still having a DPD officer respond to those calls with the social worker and with the paramedic. I would do what other cities are doing and remove the officer from that situation. We know anytime.
Mr. Moreno, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your answer. Appreciate that. Ms. Said.
Well, when we talk about homelessness, we again need to look at this as who is in charge here, and the county has the purview over anything related to health. And this is why I'm again stressing that there is value in bringing public health under the city's purview, because the county, if they fall short, we're still left holding the bag, and we're left saying, how do we address this problem? And instead of tackling it in totality as homelessness, we need to look at it as chronic, episodic, transitional, and hidden homelessness, and understand the different types of homelessness and address it in relation to exactly what type of homelessness that we are working to address. I think everyone here on this call, I hope you understand that when we move a homeless encampment, we are simply decentralizing it. They are simply moving from one place to another place. It is still not addressing homelessness. We will not be able to address homelessness in our city until we can address it from the health standpoint, because this is not simply a question about beds. This is about behavioral and mental health and substance abuse. And the city simply does not have the resources, nor does it have the authority to address that. So we are falling short on that. Again, continuing to use the resources that we have. I think Right Care is an excellent step in the right direction, but it's not being implemented throughout the city yet. It's only being implemented in a small portion of the city. And so until we can adequately take on public health and say that that is a priority for us in applying for federal and grant funding to support us in that endeavor, I'm concerned that we will continue to face this issue and that it will grow for years to come. But I do see the homeless population as equals, as humans, and we need to have a thoughtful approach to homelessness, and that starts with mental health.
Thank you very much. Ms. Asadi.
So the issue of housing and homelessness, these two issues that are separate but very much related, are two of the biggest issues in my platform. Since 2017, I've served on the Dallas Association of Young Lawyers Aid to the Homeless Committee, and I've worked very closely with individuals experiencing homelessness. Not the nonprofit organizations, not the city, but the people who are on the streets experiencing homelessness. The first issue I would say is the biggest thing is people experiencing homelessness have often lost everything, including their driver's licenses, IDs, and that is what keeps them on the streets and out of homeless shelters. I know that that's a state issue, but part of what we do is we help provide state issued ID. And that's one thing that we really need to start thinking more about. Another thing I really want to emphasize, I know that money is an issue, and we oftentimes kind of resort to saying, let's throw money here, or let's strip money from that resource, or, financial resources are always the first thing we talk about. Why isn't human resources what we talk about? And again, I know this is coming from a labor and employment standpoint, but I mean, it's absolutely essential. And I'll give you an example. Excuse me. I'm sure you all know of Camp Rhonda and the $500,000 that was spent to sweep it. Well, instead of spending $500,000 on sweeping a homeless encampment and throwing away homeless people's minimal belongings, why don't we use that to hire 5 or 6 city hired, city paid employees who can provide vocational expertise, professional development expertise, mental health, and the issue of the medical issues being in the purview of the county. I absolutely do not think that that it should transfer to the city's purview. I mean, that's asking an attorney to be a CPA. I mean, it's just not appropriate. I think the answer is partnership. We need to have city-county partnership. Oh, okay, I'll end there.
Oh, okay. I was gonna let you start.
Unless I can finish.
Well, if you got a sentence or two, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. So we could have spent that $500,000 by hiring experts, like I said, vocational experts, professional development experts, mental health professionals, physicians, because those are the very, very minimal things that people need in order to get back on their feet, in order to apply for a job, apply for rent, in order to get back on their feet.
Right. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to try to fit 2 more questions in here before we get to closing remarks. The first one will be on tourism marketing, and hopefully the second one will give you a chance to talk a little bit about housing issues and affordable housing, because I know that's a major issue at the city as well as for you all. But turning to the question of tourism marketing, as you heard me say when we began the forum, this is basically a hospitality district. It may be the hospitality district in terms of Dallas. It's got Love Field in it. It's got major hotels. It's got 16 major hotels, including the Renaissance in the Market Center. It's got the Omni Hotel in it. It's got the Hyatt Regency Hotel in it. It's got the Convention Center in it. So this is a hospitality focused district. And so our question relates to tourism marketing and funding that. As I said, District 2 is home to a lot of hospitality related forums. It's also going to be, as I said earlier, the home of the high-speed rail station. Dallas has always had a strong tourism marketing focus to lure more visitors and meetings to Dallas. Dallas has always been a major meeting city. It's the major meeting city in Texas. And the North Texas area is the leading destination, tourist destination in the state of Texas. Yet this past year, the Dallas City Council voted to reduce the hotel occupancy tax funding to our city's tourism bureau, which is Visit Dallas, by 1/3 over a period of 4 years, with that money going to support the arts. This will reduce Visit Dallas's funding to just over 20% of the hotel occupancy tax versus its current near 30%. Our question is this: if elected, would you support taking additional funding from the hotel occupancy tax for purposes other than tourism marketing? And we will start with Ms. Said on that, followed by Ms. Asadi, followed by Mr. Moreno.
Well, I think when the city of Dallas, when City Hall basically made that decision to address funding for Visit Dallas, a lot of that was based on previous leadership and some miscalculations and some bad decisions that were made there. I think with Craig at the helm, I had a chance to meet with him. I think he's been meeting with all the candidates, and I think he's got a great vision, and he's going to do some really good things. So I think that we can definitely leave the door open to that, and how our relationship continues with Visit Dallas, and regaining our trust in the organization as a whole. And then when it comes to reallocating those funds elsewhere, the arts community also plays a very important hand in tourism. But reallocating funds outside of that, no, I think that it serves a very clear purpose, and there's a reason those funds need to be dedicated there. And I have faith in Craig to do some important work, and rebuild those relations so that we can continue to carry that momentum forward and bring more tourism to the city as we recover from COVID.
Mrs. Sadi.
I think sometimes people often forget that Dallas is a tourist spot, and it is a source of huge revenue generation for the city. I think we need to support that, and we need to allow that to fully flourish. And so I don't think we need to strip it of more than it's already been stripped of. Of course, it's been difficult, in the last year with the pandemic, but it's a huge source of revenue generation. And I know several people who have been working really, really, really hard at Visit Dallas. And, I agree that they have a lot of things coming on the horizon, and they just need support. And I think with a little bit of support, we can have kind of a huge return on our investment. So I absolutely think we should support them.
Thank you. Mr. Moreno.
Sure. As a hospitality industry guy, someone who's a restaurateur, I absolutely support my brothers and sisters in the hospitality industry. I had a chance to visit with Visit Dallas leadership team. We're excited. Dallas is starting to open up. Not only is District 2 such an important part of the economic engine, but the entire city of Dallas. We are centrally located within 3 or 4 hours of both coasts and that makes us ideal for tourism. The convention center is going through a master plan right now to see how we're going to change that, how we're going to connect the high-speed train to the convention center and make it more accessible for people from the Cedars to be able to get into the downtown core, whether that's a shuttle train or a walking taxi. We're still trying to figure that out. But I think it's we also need to look at short-term rentals. I know that our hotels have been taking a big hit with occupancies going down, and so they need to be able to pay their fair share as well. If they're competing with hotels, that's another opportunity for that. Those taxes to go up, and I would support continuing to have some of those funds go to the art industry, because they're also part of the economic engine, part of the tourism. They bring art. In fact, the convention center is doing just that. How do we incorporate public art into the convention center? And so I think that you're going to play hand in hand. It's just communication with one another. And so one of the things I would look at is our short-term rentals and seeing if how we can get them to pay into a hot tax in order to get some more funds going through that way.
Okay. Last question on affordable housing, because I know this is important to all three of you in terms of your main issues as well as the city of Dallas. So our question is this. As I said, this has become a major issue at City Hall. How do you view this issue? How do you frame this in your mind? And what do you think should be done to address the affordable housing issue over the next 2 years? Let's see. We'll start with Ms. Asadi, followed by Mr. Moreno, and Ms. Said, you'll end it up.
So this is by and large the most important issue, in my opinion, in the district and the city. Like I said, I've talked to thousands of people in almost every district, neighborhood in District 2, and it is an overwhelming issue, primarily in the neighborhoods that are historically and statistically Hispanic and Black neighborhoods. They feel that they are being displaced. So when you ask the question about how do you frame this, gentrification is causing displacement. And I know gentrification is a very loaded word, so I'll talk about that a little bit. We are seeing developers come in and build completely demolish homes and build from the ground up, homes that are completely just out of place in the neighborhood, that are 3-4 times the actual cost of the houses around it. And so what happens? It causes the property taxes of everyone else in that neighborhood to skyrocket within the span of a year, and it forces them out. The most common question I get is, please, can you do something about developers calling us, harassing us, sending us letters, asking to sell our homes for pennies on the dollar? And it completely disregards the history of these neighborhoods and of these families that have built these neighborhoods. So the issue of displacement and developers having an unencumbered right to develop whatever they want, whenever they want, for however much they want. And we need to, I have proposed what I kind of consider a range of development. By that, I mean, if you're going to develop in a neighborhood, in an existing neighborhood, that development should be within some financial range of the cost of the houses around it, so that it's not sticking out like a sore thumb and causing the neighbors to suffer as a result of it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Ms. Moreno.
Sure. So, I'm a strong believer in property owner rights and giving them as few restrictions as possible to do what they want with the land that they want. However, we do have PDs in place to follow that rule. And so if it's something's in place right now, let's keep continuing to follow it. But where it gets difficult is when we start changing things midway and we say, okay, developer, you bought this piece of land for X amount of dollars, but now you're constrained to what you can and can't do. And that I follow that with the STR, with the short-term rentals. That's a fine balance of property owner rights. Housing, I believe in the repair program. I think that's a great start, especially in our older neighborhoods. If there's people investing into their house, bringing them up to code, whether that be through private dollars or whether that be through resources that are provided through the city or the county or through nonprofits. The housing development plan, we're showing that we're 20,000 housing units short. I mean, it's probably, in my opinion, closer to 100,000 units that we're actually seeing a shortfall on. But what we have to remember is that not everyone is looking or has the right fit for affordable housing as a single family home. There's also apartments that have to fill that need. And so working with loosening up the MF2 zonings and allowing developers to build more density, but making more of those units available to nurses, especially in the hospital district, and working with the new project along the Maple Corridor in getting people from Maple Corridor to the hospital district through modes of transportation that are not there yet. Those are one of the creative ways that we make that happen. We make it more walkable by working with the Tree Foundation at the Stemmons Center, with my work through the Park Board, and in freezing taxes in some cases for our seniors that are at a certain age is another one of those examples of what I would help implement.
Thank you very much. Ms. Said.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, City Square and MetroCare are two of the largest providers of affordable housing in our city. And City Square has something that they moved forward with the city, and it was a considerable amount of money, and the city did not fulfill its obligation and has not paid a penny into it. And City Square has fronted the bill for this development. So I think there again becomes this continuing echo cry about the city not fulfilling its obligations on affordable housing. The permitting process that we've talked about in the past year that's become completely gridlocked has cost us hundreds of homes within the realm of affordable housing. And again, when it comes to the preservation of historic districts, I think we do owe it to residents to have an opportunity to weigh in on developments that completely change the face of their neighborhood and risk potentially pricing them out, especially when we're dealing with generational families living in areas and potentially damaging the cultural fabric of that community. So, large and large, we need to provide more opportunities for residents to have an opportunity to weigh in on this, but also simply, asking the city manager to fulfill the obligations that are being made to address affordable housing in our city, to act with a sense of urgency, to make those agreements whole, and to address the permitting process so that we don't continue to lose out on houses that are within the $200,000 mark within the city.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for answering our questions today, candidates. I think that the attendees got a sense of where you stand on the issues that we asked about. So thank you for that. So we'll give you each a minute to sort of close and say anything you want to say to us. We'll go with Ms. Said first, Ms. Moreno, and Ms. Asadi, you'll go last. So Ms. Said, you're up.
Thank you again for your time this morning, for taking the time to learn about who each of us are and what we will contribute to this district. I will tell you that, in my time with the city and then, running my own nonprofit and in commercial real estate multifamily, I have learned different facets of the city and love this city immensely and see the opportunity here. We are at a pivotal point where we have an opportunity to bring change and to bring innovation and fresh perspective to City Hall. And I think that is so incredibly needed. So again, with the support of the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas, the Dallas Police and Fire Associations, the Dallas Morning News, I hope that you'll take the time to read a little bit more about what I'm offering here. And I look forward to your support and any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moreno.
Thank you again for the opportunity to come before you guys. I appreciate all the hard work that you put forth and appreciate the communication with the council members that you currently have. I look forward to continuing building with that. Again, I have over 20 years of policymaking experience with the city of Dallas. That's why I have the support and endorsement from elected leaders like State Representative Rafael Anchia, Victoria Niave, on a local level, Dallas County Commissioner Elba Garcia, our trustee for DISD, Joe Carillon, but more importantly, the community leaders throughout Dallas in District 2. I'm the only candidate that brings the experience to navigate Dallas City Hall on day one. I've had the networking experience within City Hall and within outside, and Dallas District 2 is doing phenomenal. We have billions of dollars in economic engines here in the city of Dallas, and I want to continue that great progress, that great work that we are committed to doing. I'm happy to be endorsed by Trek, the real estate company. I know that as we speak about the economic engine, we have to work with them in order to bring Dallas forward. You can get more information at jessemoreno.com. Thank you so much for the opportunity for being here.
Thank you. Ms. Asadi.
So I may be new to City Hall, unlike the other two candidates, but that is what the community at large is so refreshed about. They want someone who's new and independent and not part of the political alliances and grudges that we've seen in City Hall for so many years. The other candidates talk about the endorsements that they have, and that's great. I have the endorsement of the average District 2 resident. How do I know that? Because I've talked to, residents, thousands of residents since January, and more often than any other candidate. Adam Medrano, Mayor Pro Tem Medrano, told me himself to my face that I am the hardest working candidate in this race, and I am doing what no other candidate in this race is doing. And I'll give you some examples. During the storm, I went to neighborhoods, English and Spanish speaking. I speak Spanish as well, and I was giving them information on if they have property damage, how to file a claim, how to receive FEMA assistance, giving them the paperwork. I currently have a donation drive for school supplies and toys and things for the 2,300 migrant kids that are currently living at K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. I've made it my job since January to inform people not just about the city council election, but what city council does, what the city can do for you, how you can be supported. I'm the only person who makes myself readily available every week. Go to my Facebook page, Sunday Night Live or SNL. Every Sunday night at 8 p.m. I answer questions, make myself available, and anyone and everyone is welcome to join. And I'm also the only candidate who has the level of transparency to have a substantive website with my policies and platform and issues on my website. So there's no question as to what I think and where I stand on certain issues. You can go to rahafordallas.com to learn more. And I thank you all so much for participating today.
Thank you. I should have said this earlier, but candidates, while Jeff is doing our concluding remarks, go ahead and put your campaign information in the chat. And so people that are watching can get your campaign information. And I know that all the organizations will also be posting your campaign websites as well. So with that, my part is ended. I will turn this over to Jeff Kittner with the North Dallas Chamber, who I'm sure will remind you of all the dates that are coming up with regards to voting. So Jeff.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Ken. Thank you to our candidates. On behalf of Gabriella, Tracy, and myself, I want to sincerely thank all of you for participating in our forum today. Thanks to our esteemed slate of candidates who participated, Raha Sadi, Jesse Moreno, and Sana Syed. We appreciate all of them taking time out of their schedules, particularly during this busy time right before early voting starts next week, to participate in our forum. As a reminder, voting day is on May 1st, Saturday, May 1st. We encourage everybody to participate, make your vote heard. And early voting starts on Monday, April 19th. So go vote. I expect you will see these three candidates out at the various polling locations. You can visit Dallas County Votes for more information. You can vote anywhere in the county that has an early voting location early. So get out and vote. Thanks again for joining us, and we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care, guys.
Thank you all. Good seeing everybody.